I drew, I animated, and I coded this cozy game in Unity, and I'm gonna show you how I did it. The idea was to make an intuitive 2D point-and-click game that would give the player the experience of making a good old cup of tea. But first, research needed to be done. Right, to make this tea game, I need to make a cup of tea to know how to make a cup of tea, even though I drink tea every day. Anyway, I don't even drink milk in my tea. I'm just gonna hide my cup so no one notices. Now, the three things that I gathered from my research that were really needed to make this game feel cozy was 1, the art style needed to feel warm and homey, 2, there needed to be comforting sound effects, and 3, the tea needed to be made the correct way. Obviously, no milk, no sugar. Don't worry, I'll be including most of the ingredients, but let me know how you drink tea in the comments. Now, since I was also doing the art of the game, I had to plan out what I wanted my scene to look like. So I've decided to do a cozy living room where I'm gonna have a bookshelf on one side of the fireplace and a window on the other, and then a foreground where all the tea making happens. For this game, I want the player to be able to boil the tea on the fire and also have to keep the fire running as well. And I'm creating some interesting shaders for that, which I have never done before, so it should be fun. So let's get drawing. So now that I have the background, the foreground, the teapot and the cup, I have made a project in Unity and called it, you guessed it, Let's Make Tea. Now, to make the game feel a bit more interactive, I wrote a short script for the cursor to change to this reaching hand, and then when you're grabbing things, it will turn into a grabby hand. It was simple enough to do, you just change the sprite renderer, and I feel like it really adds to the environment. Then I created a fire area where you could spawn logs at the position of your cursor, and you could drop them into the fireplace. But I had one problem. There was no fire source. So after having a think about it, I finally decided to go with some glowing coals in the fireplace already, so that way the logs would just set fire when you place them on top of them. I made a really cool shader for this, and I used an emission map, so only the bottom of the coals were glowing, and then I added some bloom post-processing to make it look like it was really glowing in the scene. Now that that was sorted, I created some log points in the fireplace that the logs would snap to when you dragged and dropped them. And once I was happy with that, I got rid of the ugly placeholders and drew some logs and made sure that they were spawned at random from a list of prefabs, just to create some variation. Then I moved on to creating the actual fire, and this was just another shader which was quite fun to make. So these were attached onto the fireplace, but they were set to inactive and would only activate if a log was placed on the fire. If one log was there, only a small flame would come up, and if 2 logs were placed on the fire, it would be in full force. I have to say, this project had so much conditional logic to include. I could only place a log on the fireplace when there was no logs on the fireplace, and if there was 1 log on the fireplace on the right, it would spawn on the left, and if there was one on the left, it would only spawn on the right. And it goes on and on, which you'll see in the progression. Next, we actually had to make the tea. So, by conditional logic, I allowed the pot to be placed on the fireplace, and it would only boil if 2 logs were on there. Then once the tea is actually boiling, I will set a timer off, and then after a certain amount of time, it will be boiled, which means you can pick it up again. I wanted to create a bit of indication that the tea was boiling, so I created this simple animation effect where it kind of changes in size a bit and rotates, so it looks like it's doing something. And I also added a little steam effect that I stole from my last project. I also drew a simple animation for the tea pouring, which would only trigger if the tea was boiled and if you tilted it with your mouse wheel. And I really like that touch because, you know, the mouse wheel turning and the teapot turning. And I did this for the milk pot as well, and also some animation showing that the teacup was filling up and changing color when you add the milk. Before I show you the final result, I just want to mention that I was having issues with the sound effects being really delayed. And I've used this method before in previous projects, but I've never really had an issue. So just a heads up, if you notice that, I'm aware. Finally, I added some ambient sounds, I created a simple main menu, and now it's time for the final reveal. So this is the completed game, and of course it's on itch.io for you to try out. I'm really happy with how this turned out, and as simple as it is, I've never really done a game like this before. So although the code is a mess, I still feel like I learned a lot from this project and it turned out how I envisioned it to be. I always love sharing my projects with you, and I'd love to know what else you want to see from me, whether it's more projects or anything else. If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy my other project videos, so go check them out. But other than that, I'll see you next time.